thing is, I do believe there was talk about these things. I believe if we study history, the Confederates were able to shoot pterodactyls, back in the Civil War, and they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online.
Google it
They
yourself.
spread these things out, and this is a historical fact. So, they spread this thing out, and this has got a huge wingwing. It was a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so...
What I'm saying is Jesus wrote a dinosaur to work. That's history. It's in the Bible. How to Train Your Dragon.
Historical facts.
And if you don't believe it, do your own research. Pull up Google. You'll find the picture, I promise.
Oh my God.
Thank you, John Gleason, Godless engineer, for gifting me this beautiful moment. Y'all remember when they tried to cancel Steven Spielberg for posing with an animatronic triceratops animal rights activist?
Back it up.
Hit it from the back.
Cloaca. Historical facts.
Eat my ass, BP. You're down here bailing on the rest of us because you don't want to process your grief and shame like a normal person by drinking and mistreating strangers.
No, Rick. It is you who must nibble my cloaca, or bird asshole.
Everyone knows what a cloaca is.
back in the Civil War, and they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online. They spread these things out, and this is a historical fact. So, they spread this thing out, and this has got a huge winglet. It's a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so...
Paul Bunyan was sharing some Funyuns with his pet velociraptor.
Whoa.
Oh, you thought it was an ox? Roll back the clock. Let me knock the socks off. Historical facts.
I didn't cut out. You heard me. Are you a pervert or something? Okay.
What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless Engineer, and I critically analyze apologist claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Tonight, we are going to be discussing a quote-unquote comedy video that's a skit of a atheist teacher versus a Christian student who is going to be debunking evolution in a science class, I guess. And I know that it's geared towards like comedy because it's like the channel name is God Comedy, which it's going to be terrible comedy when it's centered around religion and like Christianity and all that kind of stuff. None of those comics are really all that great. But in any case, there's going to be a skit and there's going to be some arguments that are presented as if, oh, these are the things to bring out if you want to shut down an atheist, like an atheist teacher, who's looking to push evolution in the classroom. So we are going to so if you want to fuck around and find out what arguments to bust out when you want to shut down an atheist about evolution, please stay tuned. And no. Yes, please stay tuned. All right, so we do have a full slate tonight. We've got some news to go through. We got some comments to go through. Brosephus is going to stop by to explain some shit, scientifically, obviously. And then we're going to be getting to the actual video. If you will notice, we do have another goal for this live stream. If you guys meet that goal, which is 10 super chats of $5 or more, then I will do a special call-in show tomorrow. If we meet that, then I will definitely do a call-in show here on the GE channel, to see if we can catch any theists or atheists that want to have a discussion. So if you want us to have a live stream tomorrow, definitely consider sending a super chat during the live stream today. Also, you can consider becoming a mafioso member, which is the memberships here on the channel that helps us here on the channel as well. So if you like what we do here, if you like the videos, if you watch the videos every week, consider becoming a Skeptic Mafia member. You can join for as little as $1.99 every month, and it just helps pay for all the editing software and everything like that we use to keep the channel running, as it were. I say running like that because this week I put up a call-in clip, and I've got videos that are going to be coming out and everything like that. It's just taking me a bit to get ramped up back into my old routine. So without further ado, I know that you guys don't want to hear about all the announcements and all the boilerplate shit. Y'all want to hear about some news. I know that you guys love the news segment. I know I love the news segment. Everybody loves hearing about the shitty state of everything right now. All right, you ready, hon? I'm ready. All right, here we go. Today I learned some shit that I really did not want to know about. By the way, honey, I love my banjolele.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. It was a very good anniversary present. All right, yes, so let's get to our news thing here. Okay, so if you guys don't know here, for the news segment, we have 3 different categories that we're running with right now as far as news this week. We've got Fuck Around and Find Out. That's where conservatives have fucked around and voted for Trump, voted him back into office, and now they're finding out a whole bunch of shit. And so we're going to hear some fucking around and finding out news. And normally it goes atheist news or Christian nationalist news and atheist news, but we got something else in the social media space that we're going to talk about, which is the TikTok ban, and then we've got some Christian nationalist stuff to kind of cover. So not to delay this anymore, let's start with our fuck around and find out news. So, Donald Trump, seen here giving his rural supporters the finger because fuck them, am I right? Is planning on repealing the Inflation Reduction Act, or at least he's promised to do that, which has a number of negative repercussions, and we'll cover some of those here in a little bit. But not only would that repeal the $35 a month cap on insulin, but also removes funding to improve areas negatively affected by climate change. These areas that will be, the areas that will be most affected by removing this funding would be areas that are most supportive of the soon-to-be president. Conservatives in these areas that would have benefited from these improvements have really shot themselves in the fucking foot. But hey, he'll still drive down inflation and grocery prices, right? Oh, shit. Nope. He already said that he wasn't going to be able to do that. Like, he literally came out and was like, it's very hard to bring down grocery prices and all that. Also, I do want to point out that his tax plan is going to end up costing everybody a whole lot more money. And if he implements tariffs, that's also going to drive inflation. So both inflation and grocery prices are totally fucked. So don't even expect those to come down anytime soon. Hope those that voted for Trump, I hope you fucked around enough and you love the finding out phase on that particular aspect. But anyways, I seriously don't know why any rural voters, sorry, I don't know why I said that weird. I seriously don't know why any rural voters still vote Republican when it's so very obvious that they don't give a shit about anyone except for themselves, and they have no interest in actually helping anyone but themselves. KC hopes they get everything that they voted for. I personally hope they get everything they voted for too, including increased insulin prices. I'm not really looking forward to that, but you know, I'm sure they're not expecting that particular bit. Anyways, repealing the Inflation Reduction Act would cause higher energy costs, reduce incentives for businesses, cause heavy job losses, increase on drug prices and health insurance premiums, and so much more. It's really going to fuck everyone, but also those that voted for the moldy orange prick are some of the most negatively
I
affected.
don't know what y'all have heard, but donating is not going to make me stop. Fuck me in the asshole.
Yep. Trickster says, starting my weekend with two gentlemen, one named John and the other named Jack.
Hey,
and
just
two
wanted
fine
to say
ladies.
you don't have to be a good person to get into heaven. You just got to suck my dick.
That's my favorite one. One named Caitlin and the other one named Mary Jane. Greetings from Michigan. Thank you so much there, Trickster. Appreciate you. And then Daniel M says, David says, good night. We're going to Monster Jam tomorrow. Oh, awesome. Monster Jam. That's cool. Is Monster Jam the monster truck thing? I think that's a monster truck thing, right, Daniel? No, honey, I don't think you watch monster trucks, but like, I don't know. I was just looking around the room. Anyways, David, I hope you have a good night and a great weekend there, bud. I know I have an extra long weekend, and I'm sure that most kids are out of school on Monday as well. So I hope that you have an especially great long weekend there, bud. And you know, we'll see everybody next week, or we'll see you next week, David. But you know, we're still gonna do the rest of the show, obviously. Okay, so. Yes, Donald Trump saying fuck you to all of his rural supporters by doing this. These areas are most negatively affected by climate change, and the funding that would have been going to these areas would have helped shore up like either fix or shore up like buildings and infrastructure and all that kind of stuff to help them survive like any kind of negative climate change exacerbated events. And that's just not going to happen now. But of course, as we'll see in this next segment, they're just going to blame Democrats. I mean, there's not going to be anything that Democrats did to cause it, but you know, the Trump supporters are going to blame Democrats no matter what. But anyways, that's a nice segue into our next topic, and that's TikTok. I say TikTok or TikNot. So TikTok has been a great space for deconversion, and many have found audiences on TikTok, like Justin from the Deconstruction Zone, as well as others. And TikTok may or may not be banned. It's really kind of up in the air at this point as to whether or not it will be. And I'll explain what I mean here as we progress through the story. What we know is that the Supreme Court upheld the law to ban TikTok, but Biden has said that he won't enforce the law, leaving it to Donald Trump to make that decision. If TikTok is banned on January 20th, which they plan on shutting down services, I think, on January 19th, so that they don't violate the law on the 20th, then it's because President Oompa Loompa has enforced the law to ban the app. This may not happen, though, because the TikTok CEO is actually going to be attending the inauguration, and this is after the CEO met privately with Trump. So will TikTok be banned? I have no idea at this point. I mean, on the books, like legally it should be, but at the same time, it seems like Trump is not really in favor of banning TikTok at this moment.
There are lots of
that aren't enforced. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
illegal to have dildos in Alabama.
Hey, do you want to get on the mic? Oh, okay. Just saying, honey, people can't hear you over there. If you have input, I want to hear it, but also they can't hear you over there. Okay. KC was pointing out that there are plenty of laws on the books that are not enforced. Like in Alabama, you can't have dildos for some reason. I don't know why. I'm guessing that, God reasons. I'm guessing a bunch of men got really, jealous of the vibrators, but and dildos. But in any case, Ron Filipkowski over there on, I follow him on Blue Sky. You can also follow him on.
You have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong.
Oh man, Daniel M says, I was in the ER yesterday. I had a hard time breathing and ended up having bronchitis. I was about to pass out. Oh damn. I know what it's like being in that particular situation there, Daniel. That's got to be incredibly tough, man. So I'm glad that you're feeling better, at least enough to, watch the stream tonight. So I hope you get to feeling better there, bud. But Ron Filipkowski over on Blue Sky, he's on other places, but I follow him on Blue Sky, has laid out a succinct timeline of the events surrounding this idiotic fucking ban. So, first, Trump calls for the immediate ban, citing national security. Republicans then introduce a bill to ban TikTok. Then the Republicans secure Democrat support after Biden insists that it be softened, like the ban be softened to like a divestiture. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but basically they got to sell it. I pronounced it correctly? Okay. They got to sell it off to an American company or, in some kind of way. So then Trump reverses his position after meeting with the TikTok CEO during the campaign. And the Chinese owners refused to divest from the company, and now the people are blaming the Democrats for TikTok getting banned. But, since Biden is not going to be enforcing the law, then it seems like Trump directly has the responsibility on his shoulders. So which is he going to choose? I have no idea, and I don't think anyone else does either. Maybe Trump does. I don't know. He doesn't really seem all there all that often. But in any case, we're going to have to see next week what happens. Maybe TikTok will be banned. Maybe it won't. Right now, it's Schrodinger's social media app. So, yeah. All right, next is some Christian nationalisty news. Hope you guys are ready for this bullshit, because it is indeed bullshit. I gotta tell you, when I listened to the video, which is what we're gonna do as well, but also when I read about this, it pissed me off like immediately, and you'll see why. So this is Richard Rogers, seen here watching heathens being forced to suck Jesus' dick until they vomit, is the vice chair of the Center for American Values in the America First Policy Institute. Trump is currently filling his cabinet with people affiliated with this organization. He recently stated that Trump, he being Richard Rogers here, Dick Rogers, Dick, there we go. Here, this Dick recently stated that Trump will be instituting a, quote, faith director in every single agency who are tasked with ensuring that anti-Christian policies are not enacted. But that's not all that he said. And I bet that you'll see why I'm a bit worried about what this means for the coming Christo-fascist nation that we're turning into. Sorry, I gotta turn on the video viewer for y'all. Okay. All right, this is Dick Rogers reporting in from the Christo-fascist front lines of forcing heathens to suck on that Jesus dong.
There'll be a White House Office of Faith like there was under Trump. There'll be a faith director in every single agency, under every single secretary in every department. And so they are there to safeguard if something comes up against the church kind of thing, to do that. So that access that's being granted then will be extended to pastors and leaders all across this nation once again, to come, to make their voice heard, to learn, to be connected, to be a part of the process.
Click those pins and grab that.
Well, shit. Hold on. That guy's not supposed to come up yet. Okay. Wait your turn, buddy. Shh, shh, shh. Wait your turn. Okay. All right. So, if you'll remember from the video that we just watched, let me bring up my notes real quick here. Okay. So essentially what he's describing is how a white Christo-fascist state operates. The faith leaders will have direct influence over agencies and policies that are made. They frame this as protecting the church, but in reality, what they want to do is they want to force Christianity on the American public. This must be what their goal is, because you already cannot make anti-Christian policies. The First Amendment to the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights, states that you can't make a law prohibiting the free exercise of religion. But it also states that you can't endorse any one religion above the others, which is the issue that America First, as well as other maggots, will have with the First Amendment. If Trump follows through with this action, Christian faith leaders will have direct influence over policies that are created, passed, and enforced through government agencies. And if the Republicans create a system where only Republicans are placed in power in the government, then we will see a permanent Christo-fascist state arise in America. And I'm not saying that lightly. Trump has said in the past that he will make it so that Christians specifically don't have to vote ever again. He's literally said that. Now, what he means by that, that's up in the air. He has tried to feign some kind of bullshit explanation, but I feel very strongly, personally, that he is going to set up some kind of system for some kind of faux presidency where Republicans are constantly in charge, and Republicans are the only ones that can get voted in. You know, kind of like in fucking Russia, you know, like Putin has, you know, the guy that Trump sucks his dick every weekend. Sorry, there's no fact checking anymore anywhere. So you just take that to the bank, you know. Trump sucks Putin dick. There you go. Anyways, that's going to be it for the news today. I hope that you enjoyed it. I know I fucking didn't, especially that last little bit there. I really fucking didn't. But anyways, are y'all ready for some comments now? I know I'm ready for some comments. You're ready? Perfectly out of tune. Let's do this shit. Comments of the day. Prepare to facepalm yourself in the next week. I feel like every week I make y'all's ears bleed. You like it? Okay, she likes it, so that makes it okay. All right, so first up on the comments, we've got Wendell. Wendell's a dipshit over there on X or whatever in the fuck that is now. Wendell says, Genesis 1 through 3 are best understood as being literal. One can then trace the genealogies back to arrive at the age of the earth being about 6,000 years old. Furthermore, the rest of Scripture treated Adam and Eve as true historical people. Evolution is incompatible with Genesis and blah, 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 blah. I really didn't give a shit enough to actually hit show more on that. But in any case, he's totally wrong about this. If evolution was put on trial, the case would be dismissed because of lack of evidence. So first of all, there's a mountain of evidence that actually suggests that evolution is a real thing, that it happens, it's still happening, and it's the best explanation for the diversity of life that we have on this planet. So that's for one. For two, you don't think that maybe the people that wrote the Bible were just bullshitting about how long people lived? Like, I get it. This guy is a presuppositionalist. He just says that the Bible is true because God says in the Bible that the Bible is true, right? And so that's how he argues. That's how he thinks about these things. And so obviously he's going to take the Bible at its literal word. And because the Bible treats Adam and Eve as real historical people, and that's, believing in evolution as well as other scientific principles is contrary to what Genesis says, that means that the science is wrong. There's no way that ignorant fucking goat herders from 2,000 to 3,000 years ago could be wrong. Oh, no. It's definitely the science that is geared towards describing reality as it exists and as we experience it. That's the one that's wrong. Wendell's a complete dipshit, and everything that he says is total dumbfuckery. But also, this is kind of the level that we're going to be interacting with tonight on the video. So it's an apt comment to bring up. Next is, this is why evolution is a lie. And this is a YouTube short that I was responding to. And so this person says, cute cuddly bear says, I'm neither of the two, but I am disgusted by the arrogance of scientists who pretend they know everything when they know so very little. Okay, I get it. You don't like that scientists don't believe, or at least they prove that your particular creationist version of God doesn't exist, which I'm not sure what he means. I'm neither of the two, but at the same time, scientists, while some can be personally arrogant, science itself isn't. So I don't know why you've got to do this whole guilt by association thing of the personality of the scientists, and that is somehow is indicative of the science. our level of knowledge about things. Like, as far as evolution goes, we know far more about the evolutionary process and the history of our Earth than the fucking Bible does, okay, or any kind of religious idea. So in this respect, a little bit of arrogance, I guess, is warranted, because if you're going to sit there and be so arrogant as to think that some book that a bunch of ignorant ass people, I don't mean that in necessarily a derogative way, I just meant that they were ignorant of modern scientific discoveries like the evolutionary process. So they were ignorant of these things. You think that they would be more adept at describing reality than us now? I'm not saying that Cute Cuddly Bear thinks this, but I'm just trying to point out how a little bit of arrogance directed towards individuals that think that they know more than modern science, and then they point to a Bible. I feel like that's a little bit warranted, in my opinion. But in any case, he can be mad. He can be mad about it. That's fine. Next is Rohit. He says, "Who is behind the mega intelligence that guides evolution?" There is no mega intelligence behind evolution. Evolution just operates because that's how nature works. Nature just operates. Nature is sort of like a series of exchanges in energy. Energy states change, and those changes have sweeping effects, and they have like a chain of events that occur once those energy fluctuations happen. And so that's just how nature operates. It's one cause leading to an effect, and on down and down and down. So we don't need God in that particular situation. We don't need some sort of mega intelligence in order to explain it, because that's just how nature operates. And then next is Answers in Genesis. Really digging the bottom of the barrel tonight, aren't we? All right, so Answers in Genesis says, "Evolution is a process that involves millions of years of death, suffering, and disease to turn one kind of creature into another kind. Not only does this flatly contradict Genesis, but it also calls into question the character of God." All right, so I have a few thoughts about this. First of all, I don't see the problem with millions of years of death and suffering, because that's just the circle of life. Like, yeah, Casey finished it. That's just a circle of life. Like, that's just how life happens. Like, yes, there's been millions of years of things being born, living, and then dying subsequently, but then, they produce offspring in that amount of time. And those organisms, they change as their environment changes. And those organisms that can adapt to the environment, they survive, and they pass on those traits to other organisms. I mean, that's how life operates, at least on this planet. And for all we could tell, that would happen on any environment out there. But I don't see a problem with that. I don't see why this is a negative thing. This is just stating facts that those things happen in general. And then disease. Well, I would think that disease would be part of the suffering. So that's just kind of like mentioning the suffering twice. I don't understand why. This kind of feels like it's a play at an appeal to emotion, right? They're trying to emotionally trigger the person that's reading this and everything. I'm so fucking triggered, honey. I'm triggered like a fucking AR-15 at a middle school. Oh no. Anyways, so let's move on from that horrible joke. To change one kind of creature into another kind of creature. Obviously one kind into another kind, what they're meaning is morphologically different. And so, yes, organisms change from one morphological configuration to another morphological configuration, and because of those changes there, that would be one kind turning into another kind, if morphological changes is what you mean by that statement. Uhan, you have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong. Uhan, hey there, Uhan. Uhan says, triggered! Thank you so much there, Uhan. I appreciate you. Anyways, so not only does this flatly contradict Genesis, but also calls into question the character of God. I agree that this should make you question the character of God, and it does contradict Genesis. But those things should make you question the character of God and fucking Genesis. Like, that's what it should do. Any normal person should make them do that. But for some reason, Answers in Genesis is like, nope, we're sticking with Genesis. Well, I mean, obviously, it's in the name. All right. And then finally tonight, we have Stephen Graham, who says, so how would you be able to justify and trust constants and uniformity in order to experiment and find evidence for anything in an evolutionary worldview? Seems you guys follow religion as well. Actual observational and experimental science agrees with the Bible. Okay, Stephen, I'd love for you to list off what observational and experimental, like, science has been done that supports the Bible. Because what I hear from religious people as far as this goes is that the universe does not operate uniformly. Like, I know that he's kind of going a presuppositionalist route here, right? Like, in order for the universe to operate uniformly, there needs to be a creator or some kind of intelligence there to force it to operate uniformly. He's basically arguing from ignorance here. Like, the only thing that he can conceptualize is somebody there making machinery run accurately instead of like the machine just running, right? That's how he views the universe, but you can't look at nature that way. That's a false equivalence fallacy there, or false analogy rather. It's a false analogy fallacy. And so nature, it doesn't require constant observation and everything like that in order for it to run the way that it's supposed to run, because nature just operates. That's just a fact about nature, because that's just how it operates. But in any case, he says that, or he asked the question of how would you be able to justify and trust constants in uniformity? Well, because that's what our observations seem to show us. Our observations contained in like uniformitarianism show that things operate the same way that they did in the past, as they do right now, and as they will in the future. So with that assumption, right, we can do some science. If we ever find a situation that doesn't seem to conform to uniformitarianism, then we'll have to refactor it and change it, and it'll end up becoming something else, and that will be the dominant view. But until that happens, then that we trust the constants, we trust the uniformity and order in nature. Like, until you can prove that they don't operate that way, then we will continue to do science with that axiomatic assumption. Okay, so there's that one. Going back to his, we obviously don't follow a religion, but going back to his whole view about the Bible and how science agrees with the Bible, it's my understanding in a Christian theological view that God can do miracles, which means that at any point in time, at any moment, God can intervene and disrupt this natural order of reality and cause something to happen that wouldn't normally happen, and that's just something God can do. I don't understand how you can do science appropriately with that knowledge that, it's not going to uniformly happen every single time. Like, there's no way for you to know that God's not going to intervene in some kind of process and cause it to operate differently. You simply cannot know if that's ever going to happen. So there's no way that you can do science. So this is just a clear case of projection. He's projecting the insecurities of a religious mindset onto people that accept fucking science. So this is totally unfair on Stephen's part, but also it kind of highlights the ignorance, the general ignorance of a lot of Christians out there when it comes to creationists and those being apologetic about the Bible and how the Bible works with science and all this other stuff. They're just generally ignorant people. All right. That's going to be it for all of the all of the comments today. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I know I did. I really appreciate all the super chats that we're getting. We've got 3 super chats down. We still need 7 more in order to get that live stream tomorrow. And but while you guys are thinking of super chats to send in so that we can do a call-in show tomorrow, I'm gonna go get Brosephus, and he's got some shit to explain to you guys. So let me just let me go and get him real quick, and we will be right back. All right, hey Brosephus!
Shitty ass science! We're gonna answer some science shit really wrong.
What in the fuck do you guys want tonight? Y'all want me to explain some sciencey shit, huh? We all know that the only way we can do science is with God in mind. So, you know, this is really the only science you people have been getting for like
You have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong.
the Bible.
It's true.
No? Okay. All right. What's up there, heathens? I hope you're going to hell tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to steal some of his rock star here.
I know you prefer it to be beer.
Yep, I do prefer it to be beer, but, you know, he stopped drinking during these live streams, so whatever. Anyways, what's up, heathens? Uhan Roderick says peer pressure. Do it. Do what? Gotta fix this fucking mic. What the fuck? What is your husband doing over here? This thing's like all fucked up and everything like that. Anyway.
Hey, GE, this person just donated a whole bunch of money. You might
Uhan
want to
did
give him
another
some
one.
attention.
Uhan says, I used the wrong one. Well, thank you, Uhan. I know GE appreciates the super chat, and I'm sure he will succumb to the peer pressure. Cernian said, Brosephus! Thank you so much. Anyways, all right. How can the question is, can you scientifically explain how prayer helps or protects people in a time of need? All right, y'all probably aren't going to like this answer because it explains way too much of the universe and how it operates. And like I said before, this is really the only science you people have ever gotten in your life, okay? So basically, you pray to God, right? Oh, God, please help me. Help me every day. Help me do this, that, or the other, right? You pray to God and you please the God. Okay, you used to have to burn animal entrails, but God got kind of tired of that. And so now he just likes the little bit of the prayer thing and the head bobbing. Okay, so anyways, you got to pray to God. And then basically what it does is God creates this force field dome around you, right? And this force field dome around you will imbue you with protective properties, but also if you need something like to find your keys or something, it will definitely help you find your keys. You immediately know where the keys are. Like, oh shit, I left them in my back pants pocket. I don't know why I left them there. And so you immediately know where they are. And if it doesn't happen to you, God said, fuck off. I don't have time for your bullshit. But, listen, when you pray for other people, God will send down a bubble from up on high, and he will cause whatever thing that you're praying for him to do it. Now, you may be asking yourself, why do I have to do this in order to get God to get up off his ass and do it? Well, listen, God knows everything that's going on and whatnot, but he needs a little bit of motivation, you know? It's kind of like, well, if you want me to do that, you need to suck my dick, is basically what God is doing up there in its lazy boy. Okay, he's just sitting there. He's like, listen, I don't want to get up. I don't want to do anything, even if it's just flicking a finger. Okay, flicking a finger to help you out. I need something in return, and that something is a blowjob. Okay, and that's what you do whenever you pray to God. All right, you're blowing him, and you're blowing him to get something in return, and that something in return is a protection bubble or lucky bubble or whatever in the fuck kind of bubble you need in order to suffice. Okay. So if it happens, then woohoo, God loved it. If, God said, fuck off, I don't want that right now, then he's probably just not down for, any kind of sexual favors. So you just got to get him at the right moment, in the right mood, and then boom, it'll always happen, okay? Now you may be saying, this isn't scientific. I use the words bubble, force field, and luck, what? Imbue? I use the word imbue. I'm pulling out the big fucking dictionary for you people, okay? Anyways, I'm going to go and pray for some beer, and God will hopefully be in the mood for it. I will see you heathens later. I hope you go to hell and burn there. Bye, y'all. Yes, I do have to talk about blowjobs because that's how my God likes to get it. Yeah, that's how he likes to get it. Also, going face down, ass up works too. But, in case you don't like that none, then, the blowjob is kind of the way to go. I'm going to go and get me some beer, and y'all best be keeping me stocked of beer from now on. Y'all understand?
You're very demanding for someone who doesn't.
I pray for protection over this house. I do my job.
You don't need that.
And that job is a blowjob. Damn. Brosephus is horning it out for us over here. Yeah, so I would love for any religious person to explain this to me, like scientifically, how does prayer do anything? Because I genuinely don't understand prayer. And I mean, this has come from somebody who prayed regularly for, many, many years. I thought that I was communicating with God. I thought that, I had a personal connection with God. So it's not that like I'm willfully not understanding. I just, as I've thought more about it, I genuinely do not understand how prayer is supposed to work. Like, does God need people to beg him to do things that he should probably do in the first place? And why is it that God doing something that you are praying for him to do has about as good a chance as coinkydinks? Right? Like coincidentally, haphazardness has the same likelihood as God doing something. And that seems to indicate to me that it's not God doing anything. It's just fucking happenstance that shit happens. So I really don't understand. And I would love it if somebody out there, like religious person, could explain to me how prayer does anything. What is the function of prayer other than just, pleasing your God's ego? I don't know if that's what Brosephus was talking about and he's just replacing ego with another body part, but I'm just saying it just seems to be a very you're trying to satisfy God's ego by begging him to do things that he probably should do in the first place, depending on what you're praying for. Anyways, that's my spiel on that. And just to let you guys know, I have become a regular host over there on the Atheist Experience. And this Sunday at 4:30 p.m. Central, I am going to be hosting with J Mike. So, and I will be discussing... You have been blessed by Christ. Now go forth and suck my dong. Doubtful Form says, a protection bubble? Is that another word for condom or Elon's unscheduled disassembly? God saw Elon's thing and he just definitely didn't put a protection condom around that. But also, it's Brosephus would probably say that it's probably condom related. Yeah, Casey had a good point that as far as Elon goes, because of the number of children that he has, with the number, I was getting there, with the number of women that he has had children with, he seems to not understand the function of a condom or even know what one is. So I agree, honey. You are brilliant, honey. Jesus loves the little children. Maybe a little too much. All right. Uhan said, use meditation instead of prayer. Finding your strength inside yourself is much more rewarding. You have more strength than you know. I totally agree with that. Meditation, I would think that would have more of a benefit than prayer. Although I believe studies have shown that meditation and prayer have had the same kind of effects. So like, I think that if you're using prayer to affect something in reality or anything like that, then I feel like you're going to be disappointed. But using meditation in order to better your own mental health and everything like that, and to find strength within you, I think that can be a really great thing. So thank you for adding that there, Uhan. All right, so that's going to be it for the Brosephus' TED Talk tonight, and now we're going to get to the video that we're responding to. All right, heathens. This video is by a relatively small YouTube channel that I found while I was perusing. I just looked up atheism, and this came up because it says, when the atheist teacher gets evolution questioned by a Christian student. And this is a skit, so he's trying to be funny in this, but it really falls flat to me because he tries to speak scientifically, but he tries to speak scientifically in hopes of supporting the Bible. And you'll immediately understand why this video kind of jumped to the top of my list as far as like presenting it as an option. And yeah, I'll let it play, and you'll see why.
Click those pins and grab that paper. Good morning, class. Today we'll be learning about evolution. Hey, teacher, sir, hold on. Why are we still learning about evolution in 2025? It's just some outdated man-made theory on how we got here. Well,
yeah, exactly. So, this is why it jumped to the top of my list. He immediately comes out with, oh, it's just some man-made theory and it's outdated. Why are we learning about this in 2025? Evolutionary biology is an accepted field of science, and evolution is the best explanation that we have for the diversity of life. So you should be taught about evolution in school, because evolution is actually science, whereas the Bible is not. But we'll see that this particular creator does not lean that direction. But anyways, I'll let him make some arguments.
Tim, since you're so smart, how about you share with the class why evolution is not true? Or would you rather have after-school detention?
Jesus Christ. Okay, so I get that this person is trying to be funny about the atheist teacher, but like, this is not how a teacher would act. And also the aggression is a little bit over the top here. And I really don't see any teacher ever doing this, but at the same time, I get that he's trying to be funny about it. It's just very generalizing of atheists, as well as any teachers out there that identify as an atheist. And I feel like it, punching down on a marginalized group being atheist, I feel like that makes it not funny. Like if you're going to be funny, punch up. Like that's why, you can make fun of like televangelists. They're not a marginalized group. And I would say that they are very popular in the United States, and they're, up there, like as far as like an atheist making fun of like a televangelist or something like that, it'd be really easy to do. But if you're doing this and you're misrepresenting the community that you're trying to represent, that's what makes it not funny.
For class disruption, obviously, evolution explains us better than your non-existent sky daddy ever can.
So a teacher in a public school or any kind of school would not treat a student that way. And if a teacher were to treat a student that way, hopefully that teacher would be reprimanded or something like that. I mean, if I was an atheist student in the class, I would definitely complain about the teacher and how the teacher talks to children. So, I mean, I'm just saying, like, the teacher's portrayed as a dick, but I feel like it's an overgeneralization of atheists in general.
I'm not that smart. I'm just a guy that loves the truth. But in short, macroevolution is molecules to man without any intelligent intervention.
Frank Turk alert! Frank Turk alert! We got a Frank Turk person here! This is a Frank Turk motherfucker! He's seen way too many of Frank's stand-ups at some kind of fucking college at wherever he's from. Sorry. I felt like just going a little bit overboard there. So yeah, this is a Frank Turk line, the molecules to man evolution, which I don't think Frank has a the corner market on that particular phrase. He's got some other phrases that he definitely uses, but I've mostly heard this coming from Frank Turk, but maybe that's just because I've heard Frank Turk talk a lot, say the molecules to man thing. But it's the same kind of logic here that Frank uses. So we might as well be just regurgitating whatever Frank Turk says. Considering that this guy's a Frank Turk clone, I feel like it's rather obvious that the whole molecules to man thing is an oversimplification of the evolutionary process. Can we go from, inorganic molecules all the way to human beings, Homo sapiens? Sure. If we had the complete lineage there, we could definitely, draw it all the way back to like abiogenesis and inorganic materials. So we could do that, but like I said, it's an oversimplification of a very complex process that took billions and billions of years. Okay. So just saying, oh, it's molecules to man, and that's why it's ridiculous, that just shows that you don't understand evolutionary biology. You don't understand abiogenesis. You don't understand any of this process. And it really doesn't bode well for the rest of the skit, because it just immediately tells the viewer that you don't know what in the fuck you're talking about.
I don't think that's true. And the reason isn't because the Bible doesn't mention it. It's because it doesn't work.
How does it not work? He's going to kind of explain it, but you can't just say, oh, because it doesn't work. When you're obviously not an evolutionary biologist, it shows that you've never really consumed any kind of like scientific material about evolutionary biology. And it just reeks of ignorance. And you're arguing from a position of personal incredulity. And it seems like you've resolved the cognitive dissonance that you might have felt if you were exposed to any real science about, evolutionary biology. You resolved that cognitive dissonance with tossing away this new information just so that you could retain this belief that the Bible is accurate in what it says, like literally.
Modern science with evidence against it, actually. Okay, this is how it works. You have to show positive evidence that...
Sorry, I don't know why it's frozen.
Okay, this is how it works.
Can you just imagine like a teacher in class being like, okay, bitch, this is how it works. Like, this seems like a God's Not Dead kind of skit. Like, I feel this is a step down from God's Not Dead.
Have to show positive evidence that the universe is designed, and positive evidence that there is an intelligent creator. Or it's just another God of the Gaps argument. Got it? Yeah, okay.
Yes. So I would say that the teacher, even though the teacher is an asshole and is not a real teacher, not a real representation of any kind of scientific teacher, whether or not they're atheist or not. But I would agree that they have to present positive evidence that evolution isn't true, that evolution doesn't work, and positive evidence that their God is the creator behind all of existence. I mean, yeah, that's a pretty big, those are pretty big shoes to fill there as far as like providing the evidence for those things. But I mean, if you're going to make the positive claim that, God is the creator of all existence and God is the creator of, all living animals or living beings on this planet, then you do have to provide positive evidence for that. It's not just merely, you have problems with evolution and so therefore God exists. God is not the default answer. God is a answer, and it's the answer with the least amount of evidence to support the answer, right? So you need to provide evidence for your positive claim here.
Okay, Charles Darwin himself writes this. If it could be demonstrated that any complex organ existed which could not possibly have been formed by numerous, successive, slight modifications, my theory would absolutely break down.
Okay, yes, I do agree. If you could point out any organ or any organic part of any animal that has to exist as it exists from the starting point without, slight modifications to previous structures or any kind of previous organic structure or anything like that, then sure, you got a pretty good candidate there for proving that, there must be some other kind of explanation. Not necessarily that explanation is God, but, some other kind of explanation. I mean, it could be like advanced aliens or something like that, right? You wouldn't be able to tell advanced aliens from God, at least as far as that particular piece of evidence goes. But let's not go there necessarily, but all I'm saying is that if you could provide that, then it would definitely show us that we don't know everything about evolution, and and evolution doesn't describe everything that we have in the living world, like as far as organic species go. So, I mean, you would definitely need to explain that. And I feel like he's going to go off the rails here with that, because he obviously doesn't know about all of the steps that lead up to like our current living organisms and how they're put together and everything like that. Like, he obviously has not researched any of this. He's like listened to apologists, and that's it.
That's Darwin. He puts it to the test right there. With modern science today, here is Michael Behe. The question then becomes, are there any irreducibly complex systems in the cell? Yes, there are many. So are you saying Darwin
no, okay. So, Behe, let's go back a little bit. Yes. Behe's been disproven a lot of times. His whole irreducible complexity idea is, faulty in general. Primarily because the, organic systems that we have today, like organic structures and everything like that, we can find, structures that are simpler that you just make slight modifications to in order to get to those more complex structures. For any of the structures that Michael Behe or anybody else would bring up, like the bacterial flagellum or, cells, huh? Behe. Anyways, for any of those organic structures that they say are way too complex, you're going to find that that's a totally subjective conclusion that they come to, and that it's not actually supported by the evidence. So when he says there are many systems that cannot be explained by these small changes to existing organic structures, they're just lying. I'm not saying that the guy that produces videos lying, but definitely Michael Behe is either stretching the truth or he's misrepresenting things, or maybe he doesn't understand that he's lying, but he's definitely having to twist information in order to make it work for his idea. Because there are no irreducibly complex structures in any kind of organism that exists out there. We've been able to explain those complex organic structures with more, with simpler structures and small changes over long periods of time piling on top of each other to produce those complex structures.
There are many. So are you saying Darwin debunked his own theory? Yeah.
No. Darwin did not debunk his own theory. He suggested a way that evolution could be disproven, which that's a strength of a scientific theory, is the fact that it can be disproven. So yes, can you disprove evolution? Sure. Darwin proposed one way in which that could happen that this guy has brought up in this video. So if you can prove that, fine, do it. Michael Behe definitely didn't do it though. So don't use him. Don't use Frank Turek or any of these other fucking assholes out there that claim to have been able to do it, because they haven't. And you know that they haven't because they haven't submitted any kind of scientific papers to any reputable evolutionary biology like journal or any scientific journal out there. And it has definitely not passed muster there. They specifically have to send their articles through creationist journal mills. So I mean, the fact that they can only get their shit published in those places should speak volumes to fucking you.
Yeah, there's an acronym for this called LIFE. L stands for limits to genetic change. So
limits to genetic change. I'm not exactly sure what this means. I'm not sure what the limits are. Like genetic, like these are just changes to the genetic code. Like I don't understand what he means by limits to genetic change.
So, for example, breeders know they can't break the genetic code of a canine. You can breed all sorts of dogs, small as a Chihuahua, big as a Great Dane, but they can't break the genetic limit. So,
I don't know what genetic limit means. What you're talking about is speciation, and there have been new species that have formed. Ring species is a perfect example of this. I mean, true, like, you know, the species resembles, one species resembles another species, but they're so genetically different that they can't interbreed at that point. You know, once the ring species diverges and then comes back together on the other side and they meet each other, like they can't produce offspring. And so they're too genetically different in order to mate, which ironically is one of the requirements that the Bible gives about, kinds of animals. Each kind of animal can reproduce with itself, and ring species totally disproves this whole idea. So if it's morphologically the same but yet they're genetically different, I'm not sure what this genetic limitation is. Also, considering the evolution of like whales as well as other animals that are out there that we can trace their not genetic, but their morphological changes back through history to their proto-ancestors, their ancestors in general. We know that, species can change quite heavily. So again, I don't know what you mean by limits to genetics or genetic limits. Like that seems to be a nonsensical criteria here, or a nonsensical point.
So if intelligent minds can't break the genetic limit, why do we expect non-intelligent processes to do so?
Well, because given enough time, organisms will change enough to where they morphologically don't represent the organisms that came before them. Now, he could be describing the law of monophyly here, which says that, once an organism is part of a clade, it will always be part of that clade. So, even if we were able to change dogs morphologically enough to look differently, they would still be part of the clade that canines are a part of. They would still be a type of canine. It's just they would be morphologically different. So, I mean, again, I have no idea what in the fuck you're trying to describe here.
Hey, he's asking the right question. Shut up, James. The I is irreducible complexity.
Irreducible. No, this is not a thing. I already explained how things are not irreducibly complex. So, I mean, this is just a point that's going to fall flat.
Made famous by Michael Behe. So back in Darwin's day, he didn't know what was in the cell. Now we know with modern science that the cell is packed with unfathomable complexity that's so connected that you can't modify one part without shutting down the whole cell. So
okay, well, if that were true, then we wouldn't have other examples of different cells that are simpler types of cells that operate differently, not differently, but that operate similarly, but are different, I guess morphologically than human cells. So this basically is arguing from ignorance here, because this creator obviously is very ignorant about how different cells are out there and how we can trace back the complexity of human cells, and we can go all the way back to even prokaryotic cells, and we can see how they change and how small changes over time can produce eukaryotic cells, and then more complex eukaryotic cells, and then more and more complex ones. We can see how different cells are, and there are cells out there that contain one kind of organelle that aren't contained in this other kind of cell, and so they operate in they operate in similar ways, just differently, and all this other stuff. So my point is that there's no complexity in these cells that means that you take one out and then it just can't operate anymore. a good example of this, one that I know more detail about, is like the bacterial flagellum. So the bacterial flagellum operates right now with a certain set of proteins, and that's just how the bacterial flagellum is put together. And Michael Behe, as well as some other people, have suggested that the bacterial flagellum is irreducibly complex, because it won't operate if you take out one thing. But what we've actually been able to show through studies is that we can remove certain proteins from the bacterial flagellum, and the only thing that's affected is its mobility and effectiveness. And so basically you can take out one protein or another protein, you can take it all the way back to a very simple kind of flagellum, and it still works, like it still operates. It's just not as good as the one that has all of those proteins built into it. And that's the result of, you know, billions of years of evolution on the bacteria side of things. But also to talk about how, you know, cells are complex and therefore they're irreducibly complex. We've got examples of different levels of complexity all throughout the animal kingdom, even now. So like that just simply doesn't make sense.
All the parts will need to be modified at the same time to have any function. It's irreducibly
That's not true.
complex. So what's the problem here? It shows that gradualism doesn't work.
But it does, and we've been able to show this in the laboratory, like I said, with the bacterial flagellum, as well as comparing all these other different types of cells that exist out there in the animal kingdom. We can see how gradual changes over time can produce the complexity of even the most complex cell that exists now. So this again falls flat, and there's nothing in like the realm of cells in general that suggests irreducible complexity.
Even Richard Dawkins said, if we don't have gradualism, we're back to a miracle.
I'm not exactly sure what that quote is supposed to do. It kind of seems a bit quote miney, which happens regularly with creationists. They love to quote mine people. Also, fuck Dawkins. 2, fuck Dawkins. 3, fuck Dawkins really hard. Not literally fuck, but just he can fuck off. And so I don't even care what Dawkins has to say. But I will say that true, if there isn't a gradual change in organisms and organic structures, then evolution is not true. We can't demonstrate evolution at that point. But the problem is that we can demonstrate that. We can demonstrate gradualism. And what I guess maybe the shithead was saying was, that's Dawkins, by the way. I'm talking about Dawkins there. I guess what he was saying was that if, you know, we don't have gradual changes over long periods of time, we're back to miracle and magic and all this other shit. And it's like, those things don't fucking exist, okay?
Stands for fossil records, and the fossil records don't fit gradualism, specifically the Cambrian explosion.
Okay, so that's one particular event, and also you're totally disregarding the fact that fossils are really hard to make. And so like just because a whole bunch of fossils, you know, got preserved at a certain period of time, that doesn't mean that they didn't gradually evolve over time. It just simply means that we don't have access to any of the fossils that may have been formed before that, or that, you know, any of the body plans or any of the organisms that existed prior to those organisms were in a position where their fossils would have been made. But, you know, there could have been fossils, and also to suggest that the Cambrian explosion is like the first instance of fossils, I feel like is a bit misleading, because I want to say, hold on, let me double check this real quick. Okay. Yeah, so there are fossils that predate the Cambrian explosion. So like what he's suggesting would make sense if the Cambrian explosion was the first instance of fossils that we have. But the fact that we have fossils that exist prior to that kind of seems to indicate that you know, what he's saying is bullshit here. So, yeah, let's see that we've got fossil evidence of eukaryotic life, simple multicellular organisms. There's trace fossils, chemical fossils. Like there's a whole bunch of like evidence that exists prior to the Cambrian explosion. So, there's microbial life, fossilized microbial mats that happened over 3.5 billion years ago. So, yeah, there's a lot of suggestion here that what he's saying is bullshit, which, I mean, we should have known.
Phyla, a group of the earliest organisms, appear just fully formed with no fossil precursors. Even Dawkins said it looks like it was just placed there. So the evidence points better with a creation and an intelligent design than it does a gradual random process. So,
well, yeah, but then you'd have to admit that, like, you know, the Earth is billions of years old. Also, you're not explaining the fossils that were there prior to those motherfuckers. So, I mean, yeah.
Just a little bit of money.
Doubtful Form says punctuated equilibrium is an alt to gradualism. Yeah, so what Doubtful Form is saying here, I guess maybe what the guy is talking about is punctuated equilibrium, which I guess punctuated equilibrium, I guess, wouldn't doesn't rule out evolution, and it doesn't prove, you know, God, and it's not part of creation. I actually don't know too much about the punctuated equilibrium explanation, but I wouldn't think that it would actually prove, like, you know, God or anything.
if everything was so ancestrally related and it went through all these transitions and forms, we should find millions of transitionary fossils, but...
Well, no, we shouldn't necessarily find millions of transitional fossils. I mean, we do find a lot of fossils, but like fossils are really hard to make. Even especially naturally, it's hard for them to naturally form. So like fossils are incredibly rare, and just because we don't find fossils of every single stage of evolution from one organism to another,
we got a new member.
Doubtful Form says, screw God. I agree. But so just because we don't have like fossil evidence of every single gradual step, that doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It just means that, you know, fossils are hard to naturally make. And we can connect the dots going from one organism to another organism. Like you can do that very easily with whale evolution. Whale evolution, you can show how it started off as like a land mammal and then progressed on into the water and developed into the species that it is.
We got a new member.
Trickster says fossils are rare and yet we find a bunch. Yeah, exactly. We do find a lot. And so like, I feel like even though they're incredibly rare, we do find a lot of fossils. But this guy is expecting to find a fossil of every single organism that has ever existed. At least I feel like that's what you would need in order to satisfy what he's talking about here.
We don't find them, like, at all. The E is epigenetic information. It's the...
Oh, he's totally going to fumble this. Epigenetic information does not actually prove anything about God, and also does not disprove evolution. In fact, epigenetic information would be a factor in species evolving and adapting to their environment. So, like, I don't even know why this is in there.
The idea that you can't mutate DNA and get a new body plan. You have to...
What? This is... I feel like the title of this section, epigenetic information, and the idea that you can't change DNA to get a new body plan. We have literally fucking done this in the goddamn lab. We have changed the DNA of organisms and gotten a different body plan. You can edit certain genes and change the body plan of organisms. You could do that in fucking real time. Look up fucking CRISPR, god damn it!
Have the structure change as well, and DNA doesn't change the structure. That's the epigenetic information.
Epigenetic information does play a factor in the evolution of organisms and the changing of DNA and all this other stuff. But to suggest that DNA can't change body plans is just totally ignorant of the scientific information that we have. Jesus loves the little children, maybe a little too much. Trickster says this guy wants to find a fossil of a dog that turns into a cat. Now, he wants to find a fossil of a dog shitting out a cat that is also giving birth to a rat or something. I don't know. I feel like that's what he wants. But in any case, this guy just simply doesn't know what epigenetic information is, how it factors into evolution, and it just shows that he's just regurgitating whatever he's heard from whatever apologist has been feeding him information, most likely Frank Turek. But it could also be any number of creationist apologists out there.
They sound pretty nerdy, but this is a more recent discovery. You can read a couple books on this. It's called Darwin's Doubt or The Return of the God Hypothesis.
Right. And I don't know if those are two books, but they sound like fucking shitty books.
It'll give you even more clarification. But as it stands of today, theory of evolution no longer stands the test of time.
Well, I know. Actually, the creationist ideology doesn't stand the test of time because we've learned so much more that disproves everything that we know about creationism and everything that creationism posits. So, like, you're totally bass-backwards on this. Evolution has stood the test of time, and we've only been able to refine it better, or refine it to make it better, and for it to be able to explain more of what we observe in reality. And so evolution has actually stood the test of time. Your religion has not, especially creationism. Not to mention, everything that we found out about Christianity and how the Bible doesn't represent anything in history. I'm saying that creationism in general, intelligent design in general, has not stood the test of time. It's resoundingly failed. There was actually a famous court case about this and about how it's definitely religious and not scientific.
It's nothing more than a theory. Why do some people still believe it? Because...
Well, see, that just shows me that you don't, that just shows me that you don't understand what a theory is, but more importantly, you don't seem to understand how science is done. And you cannot sit there and try to lecture people on what science is and explain some kind of scientific concept when you do not even understand the basics of fucking science. A scientific hypothesis is different than a scientific theory. Scientific theory is built off of massive amounts of evidence that explain, some kind of natural phenomena in reality. It is falsifiable so that you can prove that particular theory wrong in the future if we have more information that definitely disproves it. But that is a very strong attribute of scientific theories. These scientific theories being built off of massive amounts of evidence that support the conclusions of these scientific theories or the explanations that the scientific theories provide. Scientific hypotheses are educated guesses about things, and they're more likely to be disproven. Once it's reached the scientific theory point, that's as close to scientific fact as you can get.
Certain people have agendas and personal reasons why they want to come up for reasons for their...
Oh my God, some more projection here. This is just projection. Religious people have personal reasons as to why they want to keep their personal gods intact and the explanation for things. They have personal investment in these kinds of ideas. And so it's not the scientists that are personally invested, and it's not the scientists that are injecting their personal bias. At least no scientists should be injecting their personal bias into it. But he is just totally projecting like he's at a fucking drive-in movie theater.
There being no creator, where scientists tell you one thing, but science says otherwise. And even if it was to work by a miracle, like Dawkins' quote insisted, the very laws that drive it require a mind to drive it. So
that's a positive claim. The natural phenomena require a mind in order to operate. that is something that you need to prove. You can't just say it. You got to provide evidence that says that a mind is required for like rain to happen. And I always go back to rain because it seems ridiculous for people to be like, God is required for rain. And like, because that seems to be like a very old idea, like people doing rain dances, dancing naked in the rain, maybe butt fucking in the rain, who knows, or to get it to rain. And so like, all of these things are just so archaic that it seems ridiculous to suggest it. Just because you don't personally understand how some kind of natural phenomena happens does not mean that the natural phenomena can only be explained by some magical creator wizard out there that has to be there to fucking turn on the sprinkler system. Did you want to know?
You're not getting rid of God, even if macroevolution was true.
Oh, I totally agree with this sentiment right here. I know I'm stopping this a lot, but I totally agree with this sentiment here. Even if evolution is true, that doesn't disprove a God in general, or even Yahweh. It doesn't disprove Yahweh necessarily. But I think that if you believe in a creator God and a creator version of Yahweh, where Yahweh is necessary for like all life to happen, then definitely evolution would disprove intelligent design and creationism. So like if that is your version of God, then yes, it totally disproves that. Unless if it's anything other than that creator intelligent design type of God, then evolution doesn't really have an effect. So like he's taking it in a personal way that, oh, evolution is meant to refute God, but it's really just meant to refute, well, not that it's meant to refute, but it does refute intelligent design and creation.
Completely falls apart. Wow, I knew I wasn't no great ape monkey like Goku. I would have been
a great ape monkey like Goku. Like, that's fucking magic. Like, the Dragon Ball Z is like magical shit. Like, what are you fucking talking about? That has nothing to do with evolution.
Super Saiyan by now. Yeah, I'm a supreme being made in the image of God. That's it? The evolution theory is just a weak theory that's no longer credible? Are you serious?
I mean, yeah, that's my reaction. Like, I feel like that just shows how ignorant you are, and not really worth my time talking to somebody that would be that ignorant. Like, I'm just saying that, like, my understanding, as rudimentary as it is far above your understanding. So, like, us having a conversation would be practically pointless. I mean, I could talk to you about it. Like, I could illuminate a few things for you. I could give you some things to read, but you're not going to read them. You're too helplessly indoctrinated into your creationist faith in order to actually see, you know, past all the God bullshit. Like, you want to believe in God, specifically a creator God, and that's what you're going to do. This is how this person, and as well as other creationists and intelligent design proponents out there, resolve their cognitive dissonance when they're presented with contrary evidence. They reject the new evidence, this new information, just so that they can retain their belief in their creator God, instead of working that new information into their worldview, changing their worldview so that they have a better representation of reality. They want to cling to their delusion.
Skeptical. How do you know this? I mean, when your FYP page keeps feeding you constant videos on how atheism is true and God is evil, and the truth of things gets...
I mean, I don't have, like, I'm pretty atheist, and I have a pretty healthy, like, atheist feed on all my social media platforms, and I don't have people that are saying, oh, atheism is true, God is evil, atheism is true. First of all, God's evil, and that's like his God, like Yahweh, I guess you could say, is evil, and that's just proven by the Bible. Well, I mean, we can point out how evil he is and everything like that, but like, God outs himself as evil. We don't have to do that. And then, you know, atheism is true. We're not trying to say that atheism is true. And, I mean, I get that maybe there are some people out there that is like, atheism is true, but, I don't think that that's actually representative.
We got a new member.
I don't think that that's actually representative of like the atheist community in general, because we're like, oh, prove your God. Until you can prove your God, I'm just not going to believe in a God. And that's not saying atheism is true. That's saying I don't believe in your God. That's it. Mark Fernkoff says finally caught up to live after watching you at 2x speed the whole stream. Time to put this stream on the TV and roll his blunt. Streak time after smoking. Oh, steak, not streak. Steak time after smoking.
Pretty hidden away by your own biased algorithm. And you teach this garbage to kids who can't think for themselves. And God.
But so evolution, science is not garbage. I feel like religion is a bit garbage, and it's also abusive to force religion on kids is how I feel about it.
I can help you with this like he did with us. He says in 2 Timothy, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. So
it's really funny that he brings up 2 Timothy, because that's 2 Timothy's a forged document. It's forged in Paul's name, so and it's forged much later. So you're using a document in your religious book in order to prove your point, but this document that you're using is a forged document that is lying to you by saying that it was written by Paul, and therefore is lying to you about whatever in the fuck it's saying. You can't trust anything that it says. Not that you can trust Paul and what he says necessarily, but just that you're already like a few lies deep into this, and you're wanting me to take that fucking seriously? No, I'm not. I'm not going to take that seriously.
you won't be deceived by man and their personal agenda so easily. But yeah, you should have got the latest science update. A huge patch. Darwin's been nerfed.
Darwin hasn't been nerfed. Well, I mean, we've advanced evolution, like our idea of evolution. And so like our version of evolution, what we understand about evolution is totally different from what Darwin, Darwin's concept. But I mean, we have more access to, better information now. And so we have a better view of what evolution actually is. So like this patch that you're talking about, you seem to think that this guy in the video seems to think that it's updating Darwin to be an antiquated idea and advancing the idea that God magically poofed everything into existence, when it's actually the other way around. Evolutionary theory has advanced so far as to render a creationist version of God antiquated, and it's no longer viable to us in the scientific community. So like, you're just totally backwards. You're ass backwards.
Biochemist, a mathematician, and a geophysicist.
Wait a second. You gotta hear this list again.
You got the latest science update. A huge patch. Darwin's been nerfed. A biochemist, a mathematician, and a geophysicist. Michael Behe, John Lennox, and Stephen Meyer.
Stephen Meyer, John Lennox, Michael Behe. Did you notice what title he didn't ring off there? Did you hear it? Let's listen to it one more time, shall we? Listen to the credentials that he lists off here as far as nerfing the idea of evolution goes.
You should have got the latest science update. A huge patch. Darwin's been nerfed. A biochemist, a mathematician, and a geophysicist. Michael Behe, John Lennox, and Stephen Meyer.
None of those are evolutionary biologists, and none of them have the expertise in order to disprove evolution. At least from what he's saying. I'm not saying that these are the credentials of the people that he's talking about, but at the same time, limited light. I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name any other way now. So he didn't rattle off any kind of like evolutionary biologist or anybody that would really be in the position to actually have an informed opinion about evolution in a way that they can disprove evolution, right? So this would be an example of argument from false authority. So basically, he's taking these people that claim to be authorities in a particular area and then is applying those people with those authorities to a different area of study and saying, oh, well, they've disproven that. I would say that this is definitely an argument from false authority.
explain why the advances in our knowledge about the cell over the past 100 years now make Darwin's original theory not only false, but impossible based on what we know now. Video of this scientific discussion in my description. I move off of facts of life, not false ideologies, just because.
Again, projection as a motherfucker, because I feel like religion in general as a false ideology, as far as like what we're discussing here tonight, that would be science and the real world. So that's the false ideology. Evolution is leaps in the other direction. So, I mean, you're ass backwards and you're projecting.
You don't want there to be a God. God actually explains our existence and how we have different races and languages much more accurately. He says that
much more accurately? Like, you know what the explanation in the Bible is for like different races and languages and all this other shit? Get this right. Everybody on earth, they started building a tower, and they were building a tower so they could get to the firmament, up to heaven, right? And so God didn't like that because man was trying to get up to him, to get up to heaven, right? And so what did God do? Well, he toppled the Tower of Babel and he confused their tongue, right? He made them of different nations. He made them speak different languages so that man couldn't coordinate with each other. He must have been really pissed off when people started learning like multiple different languages. But God did all this magically and instantaneously. And so that's apparently the better way to explain different races, different languages, different countries. Evolution has a much better, so evolution would be able to explain the diversification of Homo sapiens after they exited Africa, right? We can trace that. And then we could go to like anthropology to show how different languages developed. And it's because they were in different groups. And all. So like we have a better scientific understanding of how language developed, how different people groups developed, and how those morphological changes in different people to create different groups, different races, and all this other stuff. Like evolution is by far a better explanation than, well, God got pissed off one day because they was building, they were stacking shit so high they could get up to the heaven. And God didn't like that none, so he smacked them down and confused their tongue. He basically lobotomized every person on earth and made them speak different gobbledygook at each other. And then they had to teach each other's gobbledygooks, and so that they could communicate with just their own. And then, God kind of fucked up some of them, and he messed around with some of them's, morphological stuff so that they look different. And then, that's how the races and languages developed. So it was because men started to stack shit so high they could get to the lower atmosphere. Yep, lower orbit. Sorry, not atmosphere. Lower orbit.
Oh, maybe next time. There's the bell. Wait, class, I dismiss you, not the bell. Class, remain seated. I said I dismiss you, not the bell. Shut up. You think smart stuff is dumb and dumb stuff is smart. Change your mindset.
That was really cringy at the end. You think dumb stuff is smart and smart stuff is dumb. And the smart stuff that he's talking about is like fucking God and shit. And the things that he considers dumb is like actual science. The projection is so hard on this video and it's so cringy. This is bad. This is a bad video. Anyways, this is just his outro. It's a song and like a wizard doing wizardy shit. I'm gonna mute it, and then we're gonna see the wizard doing wizardy shit. Yeah, that's better than science for sure. Oh, look. God comedy. Do you notice, like, this is great. It's obviously Jesus because he's got the holes in his hands. And which is really funny considering that that's not where the nails would have been driven. They wouldn't have been driven through his hands. They would have been driven through his wrists. Like, that's how they crucified people. Like, why is it that they get basic historical shit wrong? Because they stupid? Yes, they are stupid. Okay. Well, that's it for the video tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I didn't. But if you will, please go down below and let me know what you thought. Do you think that this guy's spot on, or do you think that he's backwards about a bunch of this stuff? I felt like he was projecting a lot. He was exposing how much he doesn't understand about science, and that he's just simply like watched way too much Frank Turek, or some of these other like people out there that rattle off the same scientists and all this other stuff, same bad information, and use the same kind of bad acronyms and whatnot in order to prove their points, just to show that they don't understand science. Excuse me. And so I'd love to know what you think down below. Let me know. Comment down below. While you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of live stream. And don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens. But don't go, because we do have the Skeptic Mafia to get to. If you don't know, the Skeptic Mafia gets to pick the video that we watch on Friday nights. They also get to leave a comment for me to read about the video, and that's what we are going to go and do right now. I just got to get it pulled up real quick. If anybody sends in more super chats, I will get to them right after the show tonight. But until I get done with the the mafioso comments, which it looks like we've only got a few. Once I get done with those, then I will address any super chats that we got. All right, first up is Trickster. It says, I didn't know we were going cherry picking today. Funny how they never read the entire quote. Guess it doesn't fit their narrative. I figured it was quote mining. Irreversible complexity. Come on, dude. This guy obviously never saw the guy who used an incomplete mousetrap as a tie clip. Not a useful mouse trap, but useful nonetheless. We find many different fossils, even though they are rare. I want someone out there to challenge me with the points that I have not heard over and over by people who have been proven wrong time and time again. To say they bore me would be a massive understatement. I pity them and their closed minds and world. I hope someone helps them find reason and reality soon. Like, share, subscribe, and stand up and use your voice and always shine light into the darkness. You never know what you will find in the dark hiding from the light. That sounds rather poetic there, Trickster. That's pretty cool. Yeah, definitely. Stand up, use your voice, and shine that fucking light. Get that Q-beam out. I wonder how many people know what a Q-beam is. Do you know what a Q-beam is? No? Okay. Mark Fernkoff says, wow, what a gish gallop of bullshit. I don't have the time or the energy to debunk all this nonsense. Force Valkai would have a field day and spend 3 hours tearing this video to shreds. But sadly, I'm not Force Valkai. So I'll just skip ahead to his projection. He says people just believe what they want to believe because it makes them feel better or something like that. Something like that. Isn't that exactly what believers of religion do? Yeah, it is. And then he goes on to say how people teach little kids lots of bullshit when they are too young to think for themselves. That's religion's entire fucking game plan. I agree. Okay, I'm done. As always, I love and worship the gorgeous goddess Candy Black, and I have nothing else to say later, heathens. Thank you there, Mark. I appreciate you, bud. And then we got Mr. Handcheck, who says, I don't know why, but I feel like this is a God of the Gaps theory. Yep, it was definitely God of the Gaps. He's definitely got gaps in his knowledge that he is filling with God, and it's not a good kind of filling. It's a bad kind of filling. You know, the kind of filling that's illegal here in Alabama. Nope, nothing from her. Okay, I got you. Anyways, just to let you guys know, I do have a lot of streaming stuff coming up this next weekend, or this coming weekend. We got to 7 super chats, so it looks like unless we get 3 more before I shut the stream off tonight, we won't be doing a call-in show tomorrow. But I do appreciate everybody that tried to get us up over 10. You know, I hope one day I can make good on the Saturday stream, but that's not today. We are getting closer though. Not sure what we got to last week, but I do appreciate you guys sending in those super chats. But in any case, Sunday I have the Atheist Experience at 4:30 p.m. and I am on with J Mike, and we will be taking any and all questions to answer for you guys. And then on Monday night I'm on Skeptic Talk with I don't know why I'm blanking on his name right now. Grayson Hawk. Which Grayson Hawk is I believe that he's in the realm of evolution. Like, he's definitely got background on handling anti-evolution claims, creationist claims, and all that kind of stuff. So we will be doing that on Monday with Grayson Hawk on the line, and that starts at 6 p.m. Central. So definitely come over there and watch. I will be sharing out, links on the community tab for you guys to come and see me on Sunday and then on Monday. And I guess I will just see you guys later. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.